again, that was my favorite moment in the book. And it was so fantastic and so shocking and devastating, right? And it was, such a charged moment. Whereas in the movie, because I knew it was coming, I think it almost took away from the moment. And so that's why I preferred it in the book, because the shock of it is what makes it so good, you know? Hello, thank you for joining me here at Why the Book Wins, where I compare books with their movie adaptations. My name is Laura, and today I don't know if you can hear my cat meowing. I had her in the thumbnail and then she did not want to be held. And so now she's down there meowing. I hope she'll voluntarily jump up at one point and be part of the video. But anyway, today I'm talking about Caught Stealing. The book is by Charlie Huston and was published in 2004. And I'm comparing it with the Darren Aronofsky movie, which was released in 2005. So both book and movie are action comedies, and that is a genre I really enjoy. And so I was really excited for this movie. And also when I read the book, I just thought it was all right, but I still had high hopes for the film because one, I love the cast, including Austin Butler. I wish I could say like I was a fan of him even before he was an Elvis. But no, I had seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but his character, I didn't look into him as an actor after that movie. So I'm one of those who became a fan after Elvis. But then I also love Darren Aronofsky, and any movie of his I will be interested in checking out. By the way, I also covered Requiem for a Dream just a few months ago, and that movie is an absolute masterpiece. But then it's interesting too, because the screenplay is adapted by Charlie Huston, the author of the book. And so I like to think that he saw this as an opportunity to maybe make improvements where the book was lacking. You know, this book he wrote 20 years ago. And I would say for the most part, the movie is an improvement and I did like it a lot. And I would recommend it. And this is one I think is worth seeing in theaters. And the book, this is a series. I don't know if they have any intentions on adapting the other books if this film does well. I don't think of Aronofsky as someone who does sequels. But yeah, if this movie does well and they did adapt the sequel, that would be pretty cool. So yeah, if you like dark action comedies, give this one a shot. It is very fast-paced, has great acting all around. I love the 90s atmosphere. It has a great soundtrack, and it's under 2 hours, which is also kind of nice when a movie doesn't take up too much of your day. But from here on out, I will now get into the details of the plot, which means there will be spoilers going forward. So I was able to get my cat in my lap. You can see her tail right here. I'm trying to calm her, but maybe at some point she'll pop up. Oh, she just tried to bite me. Anyway, she's usually a really sweet cat. I don't know why she's so moody today, but she kind of looks like the cat in the film who is a biter. She's not usually a biter. I don't know what's into her right now. When I don't care about having her on camera, she'll jump in my lap. And of course, now for this video, I'm like, oh, I have to have her in the video. Now she's choosing to be so weird. Anyway, on to the plot. So in both book and movie, our main character is Hank, and one day his neighbor Russ asks him to watch his cat, Bud, because he says his dad is sick and he needs to go see him. And in the movie, Russ is British, so he is going all the way to England, whereas in the book, he is just going upstate, because this is in New York City. And Hank is a bartender, but early on he gets beat up so bad that he needs to get a kidney removed, and he is told that he has to quit drinking, and in the book he's told he has to quit his job. And in the book, part of the reason why he needs to quit his job, like for one, drinking is really bad for him now, and so having this easy access to alcohol is not good. And he was an alcoholic in both book and movie, but we get into it a bit more in the book. But also his feet are in horrible condition, and so the doctor is like, you can't have a job where you're on your feet so much, so that's another reason why you need to quit. And in the movie, he is beat up when Russian guys come to the apartment building looking for Russ. Whereas in the book, they were at the bar and they were rude and beat Hank up for apparently no reason. I guess they had been following him, or I guess they knew he lived next to Russ and therefore beat him up just because they assumed he might be involved. I don't know. It was kind of confusing in the book as to why these guys even beat him up. Whereas in the movie, it was very obvious why. It's because they were there looking for Russ and he told them to beat it. And so then they beat him up super bad. But then later he sees these guys again when they break into Russ's apartment. And so Hank calls the cops and talks to a cop named Roman. And Roman is a man in the book, but a woman in the movie. So I will change their pronouns depending on which I'm talking about. And then Hank later, he finds a key that was hidden by Russ that Hank hadn't been meant to find. In the book, he is going to clean Bud's blanket that is in his cat carrier, and when he takes out the blanket, he sees an envelope taped to the crate, and inside is a key. Whereas in the movie, he finds it in this like fake poo that had been in Bud's litter box. And then later he sees these two other men who we find out are brothers looking for Russ. And in the movie, they are these two like Orthodox Jewish guys. And Roman had warned him, like, these guys are like really bad. They're scary monsters, so look out for them. Whereas in the book, there are two black guys with cowboy hats. And so given all of the people coming by looking for Russ and given the violence that has already started to happen, Hank assumes that this key must be pretty important, and so he wants to put it somewhere safe. And so he goes to the bar he had worked at for 10 years, and he's close to the owner, and he is going to go there and ask the owner to keep the key in the bar safe. However, he gives into peer pressure and he ends up getting blackout drunk, and when he wakes up the next day, he has no idea what has happened to the key. And in the book, the two Russian guys who beat him up show up again and torture him by removing staples from his kidney incision in order to get him to say something. Whereas in the movie, it's the Russian guys and Bad Bunny, who plays a guy named Colorado. But in the book, the cop Roman is there with the Russian guys because turns out Roman is a dirty cop. Whereas in the movie, Roman isn't there when they torture him, but he does call Roman later and she meets up with him only for her to then reveal that she was working with the Russians. But he tells them about the existence of the key, which they are very interested in, only to disappoint them by being like, I don't remember what I did with it though. Like I blacked out and I don't know. And so they're torturing him to try to get him to say where the key is, but he genuinely has no idea. And in the book, this was more intense because in the movie, they like kick Bud and hurt his leg. But in the book, they're like twisting Bud's leg, breaking it to try to get Hank to say something. But Hank, he doesn't have anything to say to help Bud, and so they just keep hurting him. And also with Hank, he is vomiting from the pain, and he even blacks out at one point. And so yeah, it was just way more intense in the book than it had been in the movie. And after this, in both, he goes to see Yvonne, and she helps care for him and Bud. And in the movie, we had been seeing Yvonne quite a lot, and she and Hank are obviously very into each other, but she also wants to know if he is ready to clean up his act, because if not, she's going to move on. And in the book, he had told us that, prior to actually meeting Yvonne, he had mentioned her here and there, and he said that she was his best friend and that they occasionally hook up. And he also says that she is in love with him and wants a relationship, but that he is the one not committing because he's not in love with her. But in the book, even though he says she's his best friend, I think the author should have done more showing, less telling. I mean, I liked her well enough, I guess, but I didn't feel like I got to know her very well, and I didn't get a feel for the bond they had, really. Whereas in the movie, they make Yvonne's character bigger in this first section and focus more on their relationship dynamic and make us more attached to her as a person. People who haven't read the book might be disappointed that Zoe Kravtiz isn't in as much as they would have hoped, and I don't blame them for being disappointed, but compared to the book, they do devote more time to her, which I was glad about. But after being with her for a bit at this point, he tells her he has to go. But then later on, a threat is made about the bad guys knowing all of his friends, and he realizes Yvonne could be in danger, and so he runs to her place only to find her dead. And this is a huge moment in the movie, right? Because again, we were attached to Yvonne. And so the fact that Zoe Kravtiz is just, I feel like she's often just so likable and has such charisma. And so we actually are hurt by seeing her die. On top of that, you have Austin Butler's performance and seeing his pain, right? And so yeah, this was just so much more emotionally impactful in the movie, because in the book, I was not attached to Yvonne. And so I was just like, I was maybe a little surprised that she died, but I wasn't bothered by it, really. And in both, when Hank was in high school, he was a huge baseball star with so much talent, and he was like a shoo-in for the major leagues once he graduated. But then, during a game, he is injured when he is caught stealing. Get it? But he is stealing a base when like this leads to an injury and messes up his leg, and his baseball career is ruined. And from here, he starts to be kind of reckless as a way to take out his frustrations. And so he has this sports car he will drive around, and one day he is driving with a friend, and the friend is unbuckled because he is reaching to grab something from the seat behind when a cow shows up in the middle of the road, and this leads to a car accident and the friend dies. And so Hank is haunted by both of these events, both his baseball injury that ruins his career and the fact that he killed his friend. Look who decided to show up. Whereas in the movie, they get rid of him being injured during a baseball game, and instead they have the car accident kill his friend, and that's what ruins his leg and ruins his baseball career before it could even begin. And Yvonne, of course, had known about his past, and in the movie she tells him like she can't be with someone who can't face their fears, who can't face their past, essentially. And she's also tired of hearing him bemoan what could have been. And soon after Yvonne's death, Hank gets in contact with Roman, and he tells him that he knows where the key is and that he now remembers like, oh, it must be in the safe because that's what I went to the bar to do. And so they take Hank to the bar. It's like in the early morning hours, middle of the night. And when they have Hank go in there alone. And when Hank goes in there, like some regulars and a lot of the employees are there having a party. And so he's asking the boss, like, where the key is. And the boss is like, you didn't give me a key when you came in that night. And then Roman and the Russians come in because too much time had passed. So they show up inside the bar, and basically there's a massacre and everybody is shot down. However, Hank is able to get away, and then he remembers where the key is, and it was in the pants he had been wearing that night. And it's basically the same in the movie, but in the movie, there are only two guys still at the bar, one of them being the owner who tells him he doesn't have the key. And the two guys do die, but like how the movie does a better job at making you feel the impact of Yvonne's death, I feel like they did a better job too with having the impact of Hank causing the death of these two men who he was close to. Like the fact that so many people died in the book, like everyone he knows ends up being killed, it almost felt too absurd, perhaps. And so in the movie, the fact that it's only two men who are killed maybe helped keep the movie feel a bit more grounded. Not that this needs to be a grounded story, because clearly this is like an over-the-top action thriller comedy. And yet, yeah, because only two men die, it felt more impactful than in the book having so many people die. And also I wasn't attached to these people in the book. So like Yvonne, I also kind of didn't care. But from here, in both book and movie, he has gone back to his apartment and he now has the key. When Russ then comes into Hank's apartment, and Hank, he was prepared with a baseball bat because of all the people that have been after him. And he ends up hitting Russ in the head with it. In the movie, once he realizes it's Russ, he just hits him the one time. But in the book, he is so pissed off at Russ that he beats him repeatedly with the bat as much as he can without killing him. And then from here, Russ takes him to the locker that the key is for. And in the storage locker, there is over $4 million. And this is what the Russians, the two brothers, and Roman are after. And in the book, we find out that all of these people had this, robbery con thing, not con. They just had this robbery plan going on with like passing the money and laundering it. And then ultimately Russ is the one who would hold on to the money and keep it safe until this whole job was done and they could split it. And it was going on for years. And so the group eventually decides like, okay, like we're done. It's time to split up the money. However, we then read Russ telling Hank, they pull those hit and runs for almost 2 years and the money piles up. And well, man, look at it. He opens his eyes and we both look at the money. There's a lot. A couple weeks back, they say, that's it. They're coming to town to pick up their jack. They send the dough from the last bank. I have it laundered, bring it here, pack it with the rest. And I guess that's when I started getting sick thoughts. And well, things got all messed up. But man, it's just so much money, it just made me stupid. And from here, they lie down to go to sleep. And Hank, he is thinking wow, I understand what Russ meant when he said the money made him stupid, because being surrounded by $4 million, Hank says he's feeling stupider by the second. And I did really like this detail in the book, because the idea of millions of dollars is one thing, but then when you have it right there in front of you, I feel like it would be like a drug almost, and intoxicate you and make you do stupid things and also make you want to keep it all to yourself. And so he had been going to keep all of this money to himself. He was going to backstab everybody. And that is why he left town for a little bit. And he hadn't meant for Hank to find the key, and he hadn't meant for Hank to get involved either. But yeah, things obviously got a bit out of control. Whereas this is different in the movie, though, because in the movie, Russ had no intention of going against the group. His dad truly was dying, and that's all he was thinking about when he left. And it was funny in the movie because Hank, he's saying something like, oh, like you made up some story about your dad. And he's like, that wasn't a made up story. Like, my dad really did die. And then he shows him that he has a tattoo for his dad. And like, that's the proof. Like, my father died. Like, look at this. So that was kind of funny. But yeah, he left because he really just had tunnel vision and was worried about his dad. And it wasn't until later on that he realized everyone would think he was trying to pull a fast one. And now he realizes like things have gone out of control. Things have gone way too far that it's not even worth me trying to explain it to them because they won't care. Like they're going to kill me and they're not going to believe what I have to say. So at this point, Russ is like, I guess I will just keep the money because I don't really have much of a choice. I have no hope otherwise. And also in both book and movie, he sort of tries to get rid of Hank. However, Hank knocks him out yet again. And then Hank calls Roman and plans to work things out with them. And they are going to set up Russ as the fall guy. However, they have this whole ordeal take place during which Russ, he has had repeated head injuries. And they are on the subway when he dies. And so Hank leaves his dead body on the subway and leaves. And from here, he reaches out to the two brothers. In the book, their names are Ed and Paris, and they had known Russ since they were kids in like a reform school or something, juvenile detention, something like that. And they had been close ever since. And so when Russ backstabs them, like it's a huge deal. And they talk later on about how trust is so important. And that's why the two of them have made it, is because of the trust they have with each other. And they thought they could trust Russ too, because they were childhood friends. And so they're like, wow, like you really don't know about a person. Whereas in the movie, I couldn't tell what the Jewish brothers' connections was to Russ. Like, as Russ is explaining it, he had a British accent, and it was kind of hard in this moment, the way he was talking. I had a hard time understanding what the deal was, but somehow he's connected to them. But again, in both, Hank reaches out to them, and in both, long story short, the details are a little different, but basically Roman is killed. In the movie, Hank pins Roman, literally, and then the brothers kill her, but in the book, he shoots and kills Roman himself, which is a huge moment, right? Because this is the first time, like he accidentally killed Russ, but this is the first time that he like point blank commits murder. And then from here in the book, so he is with the brothers and he is like a wanted man throughout the city. He's on the news all over the place because they suspect he is the one who is involved in various killings. And so he is hiding on the floorboards, holding Bud. And the two brothers are driving, talking to him, being like, hey, like you've proven that you're someone we can trust and we appreciate you and you seem like a good guy. So you have two options. We're not going to kill you. We can either give you a few $100,000 and you can go and try to make it in the world and be safe despite being a wanted criminal. You could also try explaining to the cops and see how that goes. Or you could just start a new life with us and you can be part of our gang because we trust you now. So we want you to stick with us if that's what you choose. And Hank says that it's an easy choice. And he's like, yeah, I'll stay with you now. But then from here, one of the brothers is like, oh yeah, sorry about killing your girl, by the way, but you're taking it like a pro and good for you, just putting it behind you and not holding it against us. And women are just trouble anyway. And Hank had not known who had killed Yvonne. He assumed it was someone from Roman's gang. But now that this guy has just admitted that he did it and in such a casual way, Hank then, again, he's lying on the floorboards, but he has a gun and he shoots both of them just like that. And this was my favorite part of the book, I think, honestly, because it's such a gut punch when this guy just casually is like, oh yeah, like, sorry about that, but you're better off anyhow. Like it was just such a great moment and it was so climactic. And then I loved that he ends up shooting both of them just right then and there. And I know earlier I said I hadn't been broken up about Yvonne being killed, which is true, but you know, I'm not totally heartless. And so when the reader and Hank realize that these two guys he was going to start a life with mentioned this like it should mean nothing, of course I was upset and glad that Hank showed them that he's not as past feeling as they are and it does matter to him. Like he's changed through the course of the story, and yet he hasn't become totally soulless, right? Like he still cared. And in the movie, it is similar where they tell him that they will give him a large chunk of cash so that he can do his thing and saying how he's a good guy. He doesn't say he's going to be part of their group, just that, they're going to leave on amicable terms. When then one of them wants a cigarette lit and he takes out a lighter that had belonged to Yvonne. And then they say how oh yeah, we had no choice but to kill her. And it's your fault anyway because we needed to send you a message. And in the movie, Hank is driving because it's like the Sabbath or something, and as strict Jewish people, they can't drive on this day. And so then he steps on the gas and he crashes into a pillar, and the men weren't wearing seatbelts, and so they both die. And there had been a scene in the movie when the brothers take him to their home and he meets their mom and they eat matzo ball soup. And this scene, it felt like a nod to Goodfellas, which has a great moment similar to this. And I think between these two scenes, I prefer the Goodfellas moment. It's just so iconic at this point, right? And in the movie, again, I feel like they're doing it as a nod to Goodfellas, but I also think the reason they included this is because they want us to like these guys so that when they reveal that they shot Yvonne, we will be even more shocked and devastated. And their deaths, the way he crashes into the pillar, it mirrors the exact way that his friend had died, because in the movie he had crashed into this giant pole and the friend is shot through the windshield. And so the fact that he mirrors that accident is him finally confronting his past, right? Confronting his past head on. And also in the movie, he admits at one point that in the moment, he didn't even care that his friend had died because he was so self-obsessed that all he could think about was the fact that his baseball career was over. And so he's had so much guilt about the fact that he caused his friend's death and the fact that in the moment, he didn't care. But yeah, now he is truly embracing this part of his past and admitting that he killed his friend, whether it was on accident or not, he killed him. And now he is able to move forward. And then also when Russ dies, he owns up to that too. And rather than being it was an accident, I didn't mean to, blah, blah, blah. Instead of making up excuses, he owns up to it. And he's like, yeah, I killed Russ because I hit him with a baseball bat. And so again, he is no longer running from his fears, no longer running from his past. He is owning up to it, taking responsibility and confronting it, which in the movie is what Yvonne had been encouraging him to do. And so I did like this in the movie as well. And this whole character arc I felt was better executed in the movie than it had been in the book. And I like that Yvonne is part of this moment for him too, right? And in the end of both book and movie, Hank gets on a plane with his bag full of cash. This is pre 9/11, so they weren't checking bags quite as thoroughly. And yeah, he flies to Mexico. And throughout the book and movie, he had Bud off and on and was very concerned about Bud. And in the end of the book, he is at the airport when he realizes that he doesn't have the papers to get Bud on an airplane. And so before going through security, he takes Bud into the bathroom. And Bud, in the book, Bud had gone to a vet and gotten a cast on his leg and he had gotten prescription pills. And so he looks at the pill bottle and he's only supposed to get one pill, but he feeds him 3 pills. And in this moment, I legit thought that he was putting Bud to sleep, essentially, because he couldn't take him on the plane. And I was like, wow, after everything, after making sure to have Bud through all of this chaos, now you're just going to kill him just because you can't take him on the plane? I could not believe what I was reading. But that isn't what he was doing, actually. He just wanted to get Bud sleepy so that then he could attach him to his waist and then cover him up with a jacket, and then he is able to sneak Bud on the plane. And then once on the plane, he goes into the plane bathroom and he, takes Bud off and puts him back into the bag. But yeah, so it ends with him in Mexico, staying away from alcohol, chilling with Bud. And in the movie, he also has no access to current cable TV. And so he can't watch baseball, which has been a huge part of the book and movie, is him, caring about the San Francisco Giants and how they're doing. And so the fact that he can't even watch the baseball games he was so obsessed with also seems to be a turning point for his character, right? And, maybe he had been hiding behind baseball and now he's like, you know what? I don't even care. I don't even need baseball. And he's entering a new phase of his life. And then I wanted to mention, it seems significant that also they don't have cable TV. By the way, this is unique to the movie. I don't remember them not having cable TV at the bar in the book, so it's unique to the movie. But in the movie, since they don't have cable, the bartender turns on a recording of a past baseball game, and then Hank turns it off because he doesn't want to watch it. And that the fact that he's turning off a past baseball game seems to signify him not wanting to live in the past anymore, right? Not wanting to live in his past, and he has faced it and he can now move on. And then also the movie has like a mid-credit scene where he sends his mom a box full of half of the money, and his mom is played by Laura Dern, so that was a fun little cameo. In the end of the book, it almost, he'd been talking to his parents throughout the book. In the movie, it is specifically his mom that he is super close to. But in the book, it was both of his parents. And he does talk to him on the phone at various points, and he does have a close relationship with them. But in the end of the book, it almost felt like maybe he was going to temporarily cut ties as a way to keep them safe and out of danger. But yeah, I'm curious in the sequel, does he connect with his parents again or not? I'm not sure. And when it comes to book versus movie, so there are a few things that I do prefer in the book. For example, the scene when he finds out who killed Yvonne. Again, that was my favorite moment in the book. And it was so fantastic and so shocking and devastating, right? And it was, such a charged moment. Whereas in the movie, because I knew it was coming, I think it almost took away from the moment. And so that's why I preferred it in the book. So I think whichever you experience first, book or movie, that is the one you will prefer because the shock of it is what makes it so good, But it's still a great scene in the movie, and I did love this moment. Although maybe another reason I like the book too is that he shoots them in the book, whereas in the movie, he's risking he and Bud's own life by crashing into the pillar. He could have severely hurt himself. So in the movie, it was like, wow, that was a big risk. But again, it connects to his past. Yeah, so I don't know. The more I think about it, maybe they're equal. Again, the shock of it really adds to the moment. So I almost wish I hadn't read the book because then this part in the movie would have been like, whoa, even more impactful, literally. Also in the movie, Bud is not a nice cat and he hisses and bites people, whereas in the book, he was super chill and everyone loved him. And so I think I also preferred the sweet Bud from the book. And then also him staying away from drinking was a bigger deal in the book as well. And as someone who likes reading about addiction, I did like this little bit of the book going on. In the movie, we do see this. I mean, first of all, he gets blackout drunk that one night, even though he knows he shouldn't. But then also there's a part when he gets on the bus and he sees these people drinking 40s in the brown paper bag. And clearly he's thinking wow, it would be nice to drown my sorrows right now in alcohol. And so it's still part of what's going on in the movie, but it was more of a focus in the book. Same with his kidney incision. That also comes up more in the book as well, especially in that first half. But mostly though, I thought the movie was an improvement. I initially gave it 4 stars, and I think I would still stick with that rating because after leaving the theater, I was just so consumed thinking about this movie, and I don't even remember the drive home. We live close. Don't worry, we're very close to a movie theater, and I drove safely. But it's one of those movies, whenever I leave a movie, and if I feel all consumed thinking about it, that's a good sign. And also, it put me in a good mood the rest of the day, even though it's sad that Zoe Kravtiz had to die. It was still one of those movies that, put me in a good mood. And so once again, if you have not seen it yet, I would highly recommend it, especially to go see it in theaters. And I guess that wraps it up. By the way, Austin Butler, I didn't mention this, but when he gets on a plane in the book, he gets a fake ID. But in the movie, he pretends he is Russ. And so Austin Butler does a fake British accent, which was really good. So let me know what you think of the book and movie Caught Stealing. What is your favorite Darren Aronofsky movie? I mean, Requiem for a Dream it's such a classic at this point because it's 25 years old, and Ellen Burstyn. I mean, everybody gives incredible performances in that movie. I'm inclined to say that one, which I feel like is such a generic choice. And yet, man, that movie is so good. But let me know what your favorite Aronofsky movie is down below in the comments. It's funny, Austin Butler is working with him here because he was up for Best Actor against Brendan Fraser, who worked with him in The Whale, and Brendan Fraser won. The Whale, I thought, was all right. I didn't love it, but I thought it was decent. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Share your thoughts down below. Are you a cat person or a dog person? I like both personally. We have cats and dogs. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye.